Okay, so if you just Google Hanneman common sense, then you're going to get these results. And clicking on the first one, this is kind of the landing page that is official for this common sense method. And it goes through the different parameters that Dr. Hanneman came up with. I think his family manages this site now. But if you go here, click on the menu tab. I'll put a link for this in the description. But you can look at the process, and this essentially, kind of goes over what we are doing between the power and the action measurements. He goes into a lot of detail about how to maintain that repeatability. And, if that looks familiar, it's because these are all the methods that we use, putting the plastic or putting the pennies in the plastic bag and that protractor there. Dr. Hanneman did have the effective rod number and the bending index. Um, it's just different ways of writing some of these parameters. Like, for example, here, if you go back to the menu and go to um, this is just the home page, but if you go back and go to the measurement chart, this shows you how you can convert the sense power to the effective rod number. So this is just the intrinsic power rating. You can go back and forth. If you've got 170 pennies, then that's a effective rod number of 15.79, and you can do that with a bunch of these parameters. You can do it with the action, and with other ones as well. But go into one of his other papers. A lot of these are kind of overlap, and I'll show it at the end. But this was kind of the original by Dr. Hanneman. Just trying to define a standard, kind of like what we're doing here. Taking Dr. Hanneman's stuff and adding that sensitivity as well. But he just went into and he was a big fly guy. He also did some spinning stuff as well, but goes into what it really means, these different actions, where the flex begins for each action, whether it's fast or moderate or slow. Where the rod bends relative to the rod length and everything. So this one is a good one to go and kind of understand the intrinsic power, the action angle, how they you know play into the characteristics of the rod. But this is the part that I really want to focus on. Some of you guys have asked, well, what does moderate or whatever these mean? So here's the conversion. Now, I do think that the fast might be a little bit low, but hey, Dr. Hanneman did all the trailblazing here, so we'll go with what he said. Uh, Here's another one. So for rod intrinsic power, the line weight, rod intrinsic power. Just reading on through here. Um, So this is kind of the graph in 2D that we're doing now. This is different. That angle, action angle, is in degrees, which is what we're doing, but the intrinsic power in grains, and then you can see how the action is determined on there. But basically, just showing how that defined bending x is the rod number divided by the action angle. But here is probably what you're more used to seeing, except I'm adding the sensitivity in 3D. So the action angle on the y-axis, the power on the x-axis. He labeled some old rods on here as well. So that's essentially what we're doing. We're not reinventing the wheel. Dr. Hanneman really, trailblazed all of this. He even talked about some of the different graphite composites, but there you go. There's a shorter version of that effective rod number to power chart in this same paper. And then these were some line numbers that are like for fly fishing. I'm not a big fly guy, so I don't know. But here you can see some of the early, trying to get that rod to be level, and some of the methods that he used, getting that rod tip on the center of the protractor there. He talks about why all these are important in these papers as well too. I'm just kind of hitting the highlights because some of y'all asked for it. And here you go. Here's the Cliff Notes version, the simplified common sense method. This one is nice because kind of has all the meat and potatoes in a shorter paper than all the ones that he had. But going to the intrinsic field here, he did have that common sense frequency. We're using the acceleration to look at the sensitivity, but he had that. Um, Nothing wrong with it. I've just I'm looking at a different way of doing it. So one thing to note here with all these different methods, it depends on the technique that you're doing. You are going to want a faster action for some techniques. If it's finesse or if you're throwing heavy jigs, doing reaction stuff, the action is going to play into that. The power is certainly going to play into it, and sensitivity is just what you're looking to feel. But this one kind of has it all in a concise manner, and here I want to just hone in on these are all the publications. If you really want to do your due diligence, go read all these. It's what I've been doing over the past year and a half or so. They're really good.